Fasting is one of the most natural processes the human body can go through, and yet, for many people with type 2 diabetes, it can be a confusing experience, especially when it comes to blood sugar levels. You might think that if you're not eating, your blood glucose should go down, right? That seems logical. But for many people, especially in the early morning hours, their blood sugar actually rises. This counterintuitive situation is known as the dawn phenomenon, and understanding how and why it occurs can help you make better decisions about your diabetes management. When you're fasting, your body isn't receiving any glucose from food. Naturally, you'd expect your blood sugar to drop. But the body is much more complex than a simple input-output machine. To survive, it needs to maintain energy levels, especially for essential functions like brain activity. And to do that, your body taps into its stored energy. The liver, for instance, holds a reserve of glucose in the form of glycogen. Fat stores can also be converted into glucose when necessary. This process is known as gluconeogenesis, and it's one of the key reasons why your blood sugar might not fall during fasting. In fact, it can even rise. Think of your body like a household with a refrigerator. When you go shopping, you fill your dining table with fresh groceries, but you also store some away in the fridge. Once the table is empty, you don't panic. You simply take more food from the fridge. Your bloodstream is like that dining table, and your liver is the fridge. Just because you're not shopping or eating doesn't mean you're out of food. Your liver starts unpacking stored glucose into the bloodstream, giving your body the fuel it needs. And just like a fridge that's overstocked, some people's livers have more glucose stored than others. So when their body gets the signal to release it, a lot of it comes out, sometimes too much. Now, what sends that signal? It's all about hormones, specifically counter-regulatory hormones. These hormones act in opposition to insulin, which is the hormone your body uses to lower blood glucose after eating. When you fast, insulin levels fall, and hormones like cortisol, growth hormone, noradrenaline, and those released by your sympathetic nervous system begin to rise. These counter-regulatory hormones tell your body, hey, we need fuel, and the liver responds by dumping stored glucose into your bloodstream. This hormonal surge also explains the dawn phenomenon. Every day, around 4ish or 5 in the morning, your body's circadian rhythm kicks in. It releases a burst of these hormones to prepare you for waking up and starting your day. It's like your body's internal alarm clock giving you a jolt of energy. For people without diabetes, this hormonal change only raises blood sugar slightly, but for those with type 2 diabetes, the response can be exaggerated. Your liver might be storing too much glucose, or your cells may not be responding properly to insulin, so instead of a slight increase, your blood sugar spikes despite having fasted all night. And this is where many people get confused. You're not eating, you're doing everything right, but your morning blood sugar is higher than ever. This doesn't mean you've failed or that fasting isn't working. On the contrary, it means your body is doing exactly what it's programmed to do. It's just that it's doing it a little too enthusiastically. Your liver is unloading that stored sugar because it's been given the green light by those hormones. Some people worry that fasting might cause dangerously low blood sugar or hypoglycemia, but in most cases, this is not true, especially for people who are not on blood sugar lowering medications. Your body is remarkably good at maintaining glucose levels, even when you're not eating. It does this by converting glycogen, body fat, and even protein into glucose. Unless you're taking medication like insulin or sulfonylureas, your risk of low blood sugar from fasting alone is very low. However, if you are taking medication, you need to be cautious. These medications can lower your blood sugar artificially, and when combined with the natural drop that happens during fasting, they might bring your levels too low. This is why it's crucial to consult your doctor before starting any fasting regimen. If your blood sugar starts dropping too much during a fast, it might not mean fasting is bad for you. It might mean your medication needs to be reduced. And believe it or not, needing less medication is a good thing. It often signals that your insulin sensitivity is improving and your diabetes is becoming easier to manage. In fact, research shows that the body can tolerate surprisingly low levels of blood glucose during fasting. In a fascinating study, researchers took individuals who had fasted for 30 to 60 days and gave them intravenous insulin to drive their blood glucose down even further. The result? Although their blood sugar reached levels so low they'd normally be admitted to the ICU, none of them experienced symptoms. Why? Because their bodies had adapted. During fasting, the brain shifts from relying primarily on glucose to using ketones, an alternative fuel source produced by breaking down fat. Ketones provide energy to the brain during prolonged fasting, reducing the need for glucose and protecting against symptoms of hypoglycemia. Another study from 1972 found similar results. 9 individuals fasted for 60 days, and even when their blood glucose dropped to nearly unmeasurable levels, they felt fine. No dizziness, no fainting, no confusion, just calm normalcy. Their bodies had adapted beautifully, shifting to ketone metabolism and maintaining energy levels even without sugar. This shows just how powerful fasting can be when done correctly, and how remarkably resilient the human body is. Now, back to the people who experience high blood sugar during fasting. If this is happening to you, don't panic. It doesn't mean fasting isn't working. In fact, it probably means your body has a lot of excess stored glucose that it needs to get rid of. Fasting gives your body the time and space to do that. So even if your numbers look worse before they get better, trust the process. You're not putting in sugar. Your body is simply using what it has, and once those stores are emptied, things should normalize. If your fasting blood sugar is consistently high in the morning, there are ways to manage it. One option is to adjust your eating window, perhaps finishing your last meal a little earlier. This can reduce the amount of glucose your body has to manage overnight. Exercise in the afternoon or early evening can also help deplete glycogen stores and increase insulin sensitivity, making your body less likely to release a huge amount of sugar in the early morning. It's also important to focus on what you're eating when you're not fasting. A diet high in refined carbs and sugars will result in more glycogen storage in the liver, which will only make the dawn phenomenon worse. Instead, focus on whole foods, plenty of fiber, healthy fats, and moderate amounts of protein. This helps keep your blood sugar stable and reduces the risk of an overreaction from your liver during fasting periods. So, to recap, if your blood sugar rises during fasting, it doesn't mean something's gone wrong. It means your body is doing what it's supposed to do. It's just working with the resources it has, and if you've been storing too much sugar, it's going to take some time to burn through that. Be patient, stay consistent, and remember that any process that helps you reduce reliance on medication, improve insulin sensitivity, and shift toward metabolic health is worth the effort. And most importantly, always work with your healthcare provider. Adjustments to medication should never be done on your own, especially if you're on insulin. But with proper support, monitoring, and a steady hand, fasting can be one of the most effective tools for managing type 2 diabetes. Understanding the dawn phenomenon and the role of counterregulatory hormones gives you insight into what's really happening in your body. It empowers you to respond thoughtfully, not fearfully. Instead of reacting to a single high number, look at the bigger picture. Blood sugar management isn't about one reading, it's about long-term trends, and fasting might just be the tool you need to shift the direction of your health.